This is the Ducky One SF. Let's jump right into the build quality, but if at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same keyboard, I have a mechanicalkeyboards.com link below. Use creator code CTR to help me out at no further cost to you. Help these reviews keep coming. But let's get into the build quality. Okay, so first of all plastic. Basically, all of this back here is plastic. Kind of a nice angular design. Now, this is nice and heavy. When you take it out of the box, you can definitely feel that it is heavy. It does have 2-stage risers on the back, so you have a 1-stage and then a 2-stage, flat, 1-stage, and then 2-stage. Now, this top blue section is all textured. It's not quite a gritty texture, but it just has this slight texture to it. It looks nice. It kind of looks like metal. However, being all plastic, the back doesn't sound nice when tapping on, as you can hear. Like, it sounds a little hollow. That being said, when it is on the desk, even with the risers up, it feels really solid. So that is a good thing, and that is partially because of some stuff that we're gonna talk about later, which is really, really good. Now, this also uses a white metal top plate to help bounce that RGB up, which is nice. All right, but next to the keycaps. All right, so these keycaps, they are pretty good, and they come in this like gray, blue, and then kind of yellow greenish color up here. Now, I personally like it. They call this the daybreak color. That also comes in a yellow color. This kind of does look like a running shoe. However, I do like it, and I think it looks kind of cool. Now, the stock keycaps are good quality. However, they're not as good as something like Acco would produce on their stock keyboards. Now, the printing is good. However, there is inconsistencies. I've heard some other YouTubers that say they're great high quality keycaps. They're good. They're not great. You can look from the 1 to the 2 to the 3, and it can obviously see that the 3 is quite a bit more bold than the 1. The 6 is lighter than the 7. There are definitely inconsistencies with the printing because these are not the highest quality ones, and they also produce a little bit of a tinnier sound. Maybe not a tinnier, but a higher pitched. A little bit of a higher pitch sound that you typically get on most stock keycaps. Now, comparing these to typical stock keycaps, they obviously look and sound and feel quite a bit better. They do have a slight texture to them, which is nice. I could live with these keycaps for sure. However, don't think these are gonna be GMK quality on a stock board, but they do look nice and they do feel pretty good. And obviously, these are not shine-through keycaps. Now, hot swappability and switches. Now, right now, you can only get this thing with cherry switches. Now, right now, you have the choice between black, brown, blue, red, silver, clears, and then silent reds. Now, I got these in the cherry reds, and they feel fine. I'm not a huge fan of these cherry switches or any of the cherry switches on here. However, if you're not a keyboard enthusiast, these are going to feel pretty good to you. They are a higher tier switch, better than something like a Altemu switch. However, the really big part is that this keyboard is hot swappable. Huge upgrade from the Ducky One 2, and you can just pull these right out, and you can see in there a fully hot swappable PCB that can take 3 or 5 pin switches, which is fantastic. Now, you can also see right there north-facing LEDs. We don't get south-facing LEDs. That's because if people want to put shine-through keycaps on these, that you absolutely can, and more shine-through keycaps will be accessible to put on this board. Although we are going to continue to talk about that because there is something with that. But basically, if you want to swap in any switches you want into this board, you absolutely can, and honestly, you absolutely should. All right, but the stabilizers, how are they? Now, this is a big thing for me. Number one, they are better than name brand competitors such as Razer, Corsair, HyperX. They're better than all of those stock stabilizers. However, that being said, I don't think the name brand competitors ever really have that good of stabilizers. Now, the stabilizers on this are actually good, but they're just not tuned very well. They're very lightly lubed, which is kind of weird, but maybe they expect you to lube them, which is totally fine, because if you do, these will sound quite nice. That being said, if you compare this to something like Acco or Techwear or Red Dragon, they all typically have way better stabilizers tuned in stock form. But again, if you're gonna tune your stabilizers and lube them up yourself, absolutely no problem. And this actually kind of gives you a sneak peek into who this board is really for. All right, but now the dampening. This is the really, really awesome part. Okay, so in the case, I said it was a little bit hollow on the back. That being said, they do have foam in the back of the case right here. Now, that's not it. That's not even the really impressive part. The really impressive part is between the plate and the PCB. Now, plenty of companies, even more budget companies, sometimes, occasionally, you will find some PCB and plate dampeners. In this one, they take it up a notch. It is full silicone and it's bright yellow to match like the Ducky theme, which I think is awesome. But yeah, that changes the whole sound and feel of this board. And it's huge because doing that DIY, not easy. You can easily do a silicone mold for the case. It's very easy to do and it's pretty cheap. Doing a silicone mold for a PCB and plate, not that easy because you have all those little cutouts. That would be super hard. So including that in this board is a absolutely huge thing. All right, but now before we move on to the RGB, let's talk about the biggest flaw of this board. Now, this is only for the SF, not the Mini, not the TKL, just the SF. Now the SF is a 65% form factor. So you have your arrow keys over here, some of those little multimedia keys right there, and then you get a smaller shift key over here. Now that is the biggest flaw right now. Now typically on most 60% or TKLs, I have one right here. You can see all of the keycaps, all of these keys right here, the shift key, all of these are normal and typically sized. Now, if we compare that to the Ducky One 3 SF, like on most 65 and 75% boards, the Alt and the FN keys are smaller. That's fine, that's pretty typical. Most keycap sets will include those. Now, this is where it becomes a problem. The Shift key is a normal size on a 60%. On this 65% one, it is smaller. Now, it's also typical, and again, most keycap sets will include a size of that size. Now, that being said, this is where the huge problem arises. We have one stabilizer, two stabilizer, and then you would typically have 3 and then 4 stabilizers. Now, at a 60% and everything else, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, on the Ducky One 3 SF, you still have 5 because on the small shift key right here, there is a stabilizer. So unless your small shift key for a 75 and 65% board has those little 3 things, it's not gonna fit on this board. And very few actually do. Now the GMKs will have that. However, a lot of other switches will just not have that. And that is a huge problem, the biggest flaw for me, because if I wanna swap out these keycaps, that takes down a bunch of options for me. That being said, this could be a deal breaker, this could not be a deal breaker. If you like the colorway, I think the colorway looks awesome, especially like blue on blue, I think it looks awesome. However, if you know that you wanna change these keycaps out, research your keycaps before you buy this board. But if you do like it like this, I do think it looks cool. But yeah, let's move on to that RGB. All right, now the RGB I'm impressed with and I'm not impressed with. Yes, it doesn't have south-facing RGBs. I don't mind that. The people that are gonna be buying this are gonna be between kind of people that are newer to keyboards and keyboard enthusiasts. This is kind of a middle ground, and that's a good thing. So if you wanna put shine through keycaps on this, you absolutely can. Besides that, it has great colors, great vibrancy, per key RGB, whatever you want. Now, the thing that I absolutely love about the RGB is that, let's take off this space bar. Right there, you can notice something. We got one RGB for that switch right there, and then we have not 2, but 4 in the sides between the stabilizers. So on that space bar, you have a total of 5 RGB. So if you wanna put something like a pudding keycap or like any other shine through space bar that has kind of a glow behind it, that is freaking awesome. I mean, that is seriously cool. So yeah, I am super happy about that. Now, the thing that I don't like about it is that you can see there is side printing on some of these keycaps right here. You can see these are kind of RGB functions. There's another RGB function up there. You hold FN and Alt, I think, and then click those. Now, problem arises is that it's very hard to actually get to change all of the RGB functions. It takes way too much time. They put it over in this weird spot over here when they could have just used these multimedia keys that aren't gonna get used a whole ton anyway. All right, now let's go over some of the main RGB menu functions. How you're gonna do this is by holding FN and then Alt. Now, the T button while holding FN and Alt will change some of the settings, whether that's static, reactive, or a typical rainbow. Now, if you come across a static color mode or some of the reactive modes, you can change those to a static color rather than an RGB. And you're gonna do this by first selecting either a static or a reactive mode and then holding FN and clicking space. Then release those keys and it will show kind of a rainbow, and you can click on any one of those colors to make it the solid full color. So those are a couple of the main RGB menu functions that should help you out with kind of getting your RGB all designated once you get your keyboard. Now moving on from that, This uses detachable USB-C cable. You can see over there on the left side, you can see right there. Now, it is recessed pretty deep in there, but it's big enough for all custom coiled cables to fit in to that slot. So I wouldn't worry about your custom coiled cable not fitting unless it's got a real fat end. However, even though it sounds like I'm being really negative towards this keyboard, I actually really like it, and I do recommend it for a specific person. So listen, if you are this person, if you want a nice sounding keyboard out of the box that you could just use like this, but if you want to put new switches in it and you never want to have to open up the case. Basically, the case is really good. It's got that PCB and plate dampener, the silicone one, which is amazing. It feels really solid when you're typing on the desk. Ducky did a really good job with making it feel solid. And then if you want to tune your stabilizer, so basically if you want to put switches on it and then tune your stabilizers and basically do nothing else, this is an absolutely fantastic board for you. So if that's you, I absolutely recommend it. Again, you can go check out the mechanicalkeyboards.com link below and use creator code CTR to help me out and help support these reviews. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, I will be doing a modding guide on it, so subscribe below if you want to check out the switches and how I tuned these specific stabilizers and then what it sounds like. But this is Consumer Tech Review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.